Welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm Jeff Richard. We'll be hosting for you today. It is the 1st of June, so we're looking forward to a great weather month. With me today are the Town Council President from Portsmouth, Mr. Joe Robicheau, and along with Joe, John Klim, our Town Administrator. So, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First time on the program for the Town Council President, so this is very informal. You can ask questions as well as respond to them. So, but first thought I might have, since this is your first chance here at the studio, could you tell us just a little bit about your experience as the Town Council President, as a newly elected official? And what were your thoughts when it's time to get elected, and now you're elected, and now all of a sudden you're the Town Council President? What was that all about?
Well, I was having no prior experience. I thought that I'd run for council and I'd sit in the corner and vote on the issues, and it never entered my mind that I might be the president of the council. And so it just happened. So I had to gear up and do the best I can, and that's what I've done. I've done the best I can.
What got you involved in the political arena to begin with?
Well, as most people know, I'm a member of the Portsmouth Concerned Citizens. At the time, I was the editor of the newsletter. I was on the executive committee. The executive committee was, in 2008, was trying to find candidates that had their perspective on government and how it should run. And we were sitting around the table, and nobody was sticking their hands up to step up and try to get a seat on the council. So I never did it before, obviously. And I said, which I've done in the past, I have a habit of putting myself into places I haven't been before. I said, okay, I'll do it. And that's how it got started. Here I am.
John, just relating your experience this week to John's week, you started this week with some intentions that in supporting what was going on in the town council. What did you accomplish this past week? And
well, I think the greatest, the largest issue that we're dealing with is the future of the so-called Glen properties, where there is a request from the Elmhurst committee for the council to consider the possibility of putting a conservation restriction on the property. So I think in a very responsible way, the council is considering that issue. And I guess unfortunately, like almost every other issue we've been dealing with since I got here, I keep saying to the council president that it seems like nothing in Portsmouth is easy. And this is a very complex issue. And we're talking about doing something in perpetuity, so obviously the ramifications are significant. And I'm impressed by the council president and all of the members of the council about the seriousness in which they are taking this and many other issues. But as we will discuss, there's a timeline involved here, and so the council's putting an awful lot of time and trying to get prepared to take a vote on this issue.
The council has established a workshop schedule for this particular issue, and why did you make that decision? Why a workshop?
Well, it's in my view, and I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I sense from the reception the council got from the Elmhurst committee is that they're uncomfortable with the outcome, because I think to a person we expected to have a revenue producing idea come forth. And we're not second guessing the Elmhurst Reuse Committee, but we were just somewhat taken aback by the conclusions that they came to. And their proposal is a good one, but given that we were expecting something else, we're uncomfortable just willy-nilly deciding to put this before the voters.
Yeah, so in addition to the workshop, you indicated that an RFP should be sent out to see exactly what people would estimate the actual tear-down cost, not an estimate, but a contractor actually suggested price for the tearing down of the building there. And I guess the committee did not actually have a contractor estimate.
No, they had some made some informal inquiries to some various demolition contractors, and so they did get some estimates on that, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million, but there was no firm numbers. And so Mr. Klim has, as the council directed, we've decided the school has got to come down. I think that's pretty clear on the council's part. The school's got to come down, some part of it, maybe the former chapel as well. And we needed an RFP that would clearly define the cost. And in doing so, Mr. Klim and the staff have determined that there's more than just, before we get an RFP together, we have to do a hazardous materials abatement survey, as well as a land survey. And so this is going to drive up the cost of just going out for the RFP. And we're faced with the ideal time of putting this on a ballot when there'll be more people at the polls, more people interested and engaged, and probably the best time to put this decision before the voters, which, as far as I'm concerned, must happen. But it's a monumental decision, and the council's just, uncomfortable.
John, how would you craft how would the town council here help craft the wording for a ballot proposal?
Well, that is another important issue because there hasn't been an initial decision in terms of what the ballot question is going to say. In other words, is the ballot question going to be designed to ask the preference of our citizens simply on this one option that has come forward from the committee, or is there going to be a second option, which would be not participating with the land trust, but having the taxpayers funding through a bond issuance the removal of the building? I mean, one thing we all agree on is that the building it's
got to come down.
It's got to come down, and so and to know the cost, as the council president just said, we have to undertake a series of studies to know how much asbestos is in the building, to know what other hazardous materials, lead and the like, are in the building. Additionally, we need a topographical study, and we need to decide whether or not the entirety of the building is coming down or the entire building but for the chapel, the so-called former chapel. And so those are the types of decisions that have to be made. I think that the council is acting very responsibly because they don't want to be put into a position where they're putting something forward and then thereafter, after the fact, finding out that there are hidden costs that could be significant that they weren't aware of at the time that this was being proposed. And so the real challenge is to try to do the due diligence, which is absolutely necessary, within the time frame of the November ballot.
Can you get the RFPs out and back in time to get it on the ballot?
Well, we believe that we can, but there's a huge caveat to that, and that is that there isn't any holdups or any delays in any of the myriad of steps that have to take place. It's very, very tight, and we've sent that message as clearly as we can, not only to the council, but also to the Elmhurst committee, that there are no good guys and bad guys here. We're just trying to do a good job, but we want to do it comprehensively. We don't want to find out after the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of costs that aren't accounted for. Yeah. And so we're acting with due diligence as quickly as possible, but as I said, the council is deserving of having the entire picture put before them
Right.
before a decision is made.
Will that committee stay constituted until you've made a decision?
Yes, yes, I think
Okay.
they're in place through the election. I'm not sure about the date, but
Okay, but
they
those
still
assets-
exist.
Yeah, the
So they can
assets on
contribute.
that committee, you can use.
Absolutely, and one thing I'll say is that there is an incredible amount of talent
Yes.
and experience and expertise by the members of the committee, and so I'm delighted that Chairman Wimpress and the other members of the committee have made it very clear that they are available, and we will be working with them
Sure.
throughout this whole process.
It just occurred to me, the process whereby the Parks and Recreation side of life and the possible income sources from the various things that we have in town. Whatever the decision is, if the chapel stayed in place, it's a potential revenue source, I guess, for use. People could use it to
Sure.
be wedded and then have at the Glen Manor House have their reception. Right now, the weddings that were held down there are done outside with the tents as required. But
the
having an inside
downside to
chapel is a
that
thought.
is that there is a considerable additional cost to keeping the chapel. Deals
yes.
with what's left of the building
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
tear it away or leave it there, and there are issues dealing with landscape and slope and topography. It's
Understood.
very clear that there's going to be an additional cost, believe it or not, to keep the chapel as opposed to
Sure.
taking it down. So before the council can make an informed decision, though, they need to know what the costs are.
Sure.
And so.
And
that's what
I
we're-
suppose that there are a lot of alternative activities down there in the Glen that could be used. If that chapel could be used or the Glen Manor House could be used for things other than wedding receptions, potentially in an expanded business plan for that part of the world. But there certainly would probably be plenty of parking. Anyway, it's a great issue. I think everybody in town probably has a view on it, and I think that when you make a vote, it's going to be a great one.
The one point that I wanted to make, though, is that it's one thing to have an opinion on it without having the responsibility
right.
to know all of the facts. And unfortunately, the council is not in a position where they can let their gut speak for them and say, well, this sounds like a good idea, so I'm in favor, or I don't like this, I'm against it. They really have an additional burden or responsibility to know all of the facts beforehand, and that's why I think they're acting very responsibly.
Super.
So the real challenge is whether they can do that within the time frame that's available.
For instance, the question of outzones. I mean, when I looked at the picture and outzones, what are outzones, and how do they influence the future of the park? What was an outzone?
An outzone is an area within the conservation easement where development of some sort is allowed. And basically, the outzones, it was recognized by the committee when they spoke with the Aquidneck Island Land Trust that the council wanted some revenue-producing facilities or whatever, something that would produce revenue. And so they drew these two outzones down at the lower Glen, plus the road that goes into the Glen and the area where the barns and the riding stable and so forth are. And so those would not be part of the easement. And so my concern is that we don't have enough information to determine where those outzones should be, what are the possibilities for those outzones, and as I stated during the discussion at the council meeting, should this not be a floating outzone of some number of acres so that we have flexibility in what might go where. And this I think is probably one of the biggest issues that's unknown and makes the council most uncomfortable, because this is a huge property and a huge asset to the town. And if it can't produce any money, I mean, it costs a lot of money to maintain all this property. If we don't have something down there besides the Glen Manor, which it does very well, then my view is we need something else down there. And where does it go, and what is it, and what does it need to function? So, that's still something that's unknown, and the voters need the same information so they can make an informed decision when it comes to them. Should the town accept the Aquidneck Island Land Trust's proposal to help us get rid of the school, and then but conserve the property in perpetuity for open space, recreation, and so forth, and without knowing what can be done to support that property after that happens.
It's a really difficult task for the council to pursue, because you're talking about something in perpetuity, and so they have to try to guess what our needs might be in 100 or 200 years. But you have these out zones. In 100 years, someone might want to put a small shed up to store recreational equipment or whatever. But if it's not available, if there isn't space within the out zone anymore, that it would not be allowed under the out zones. And so the council's going to have to do the best job that it can do. I don't know how good their crystal ball is looking 100 or 200 years into the future or whatever, but it is a serious issue. And the council's absolutely right when they say we've got to at least put this on the table and discuss it and debate it before we make a final decision.
Another interesting discussion's going to take place. Yeah. The Charter Review Commission reported out at this past week. Where do you think that is going to go between now and the deadline for inclusion on the ballot in November?
Well, we're going to workshop it. I'm not sure we've established a date for that, but there's, and I perhaps during the council meeting where the presentation was made by the Charter Review Committee, there were other citizens that came up with additional changes, and myself included, that the Charter Review Committee had not, well, some of them had been discussed and voted down by the Charter Review Committee, and some had, the Charter Committee had not seen. Well, in particular, I thought that in an emergency that the town council president should not be in charge of emergency operations, for a hurricane or an earthquake or whatever.
That sounds like a great subject for Portsmouth This Week segment.
Yes.
Maybe we can do that real soon. But so at this point, then, with a workshop coming, any citizen who has at this point either not had a chance to say anything to the Charter Review Committee or hadn't had the thought, now that it's been outlined as to what this group of people think should be changed for the charter, and someone sees that and says, well, they forgot my favorite idea. So that citizen can come before the workshop in the town council and suggest a possible change to you, which if the town council votes in majority to put on the ballot, that could happen. So the process is ongoing. And what's the timeline? How much time and what are we going to do in between now and that?
August 8th is the...
August 8th is when we have to have, the decision has to be made to submit for the ballot.
Okay.
Now, do we have a date that we set for?
We discussed it tentatively, but we haven't set it yet.
In any case, in preparation for that meeting, on the Tuesday, well, assuming it depends on what day it's going to be, but in any case, anybody who has an additional comment or a change that they would like to see, a comment against the submitted charter changes or a suggested new charter change, they can be placed on the agenda for consideration in the workshop. I mean, that's always been the case. Anybody, anytime, can come to the council with a suggested charter change. And
Did somebody with that thought, should they prepare it ahead of time and give it to the town clerk and it becomes then an official matter of the agenda, or just in general someone could come I suppose it's not really easily done if the town council people do not get an advance copy of something. Not a good idea.
No, not a good
Yeah.
idea. They better be submitted beforehand, otherwise the council's going to say, you know, we haven't had a chance to study this.
Sure. And your backup reading is available to you how much in advance of a town council meeting?
It's typically a week. For a Monday night meeting, you got to have everything in by noon on Tuesday.
Great. Yeah. Sometimes it
So,
gets to be a real
yeah.
thick package.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether you knew exactly what was going to be happening to you. Probably not. But now it happened, and now you're on the town council. And how busy do you have to be a good town council person? And
Well, it depends on whether or not you think I'm a good town council person, but I'll tell you this, it takes a lot of time. My life is just, I was supposed to be retired, and that hasn't happened yet. It's at least a full-time job.
I'm not sure the citizens of Portsmouth really know how diligent and how hardworking our councilors are, and most particularly the town council president. I mean, a day does not go by that our town council president is not on the phone, is not in town hall 2 or 3 times a day. It really is a huge time commitment, probably larger than you had originally thought it might be, but I can attest to the fact that Councilor Robicheau puts in a lot of hours every week, and as does all of the council. I mean, it really is it's a difficult job, and it's a time-consuming job, and I'm not sure that all of our residents are understanding of that, the time and the effort that every one of our councilors put into the job. They take it very seriously, and they commit a lot of hours every week.
yeah, besides the meeting schedule, which is huge,
Yes.
particularly this time of year. It seems like you're always meeting 2 or 3 times a week. But just thinking about the reading ahead of time in order to stay informed enough so that you can ask the right questions once you get to sit down. And somebody says, what's your pleasure, what's your vote? I mean, if you don't know a lot about what it is, not too many recusals, so people
No.
must be reading, must try to understand what they're doing because they're not recusing themselves, and that's very good. But
Yes, it is. No, we have a very well-informed council. They come prepared for those meetings. There's no question in my mind. They do their research.
Yeah, the number of council meetings I've been attending, anyone who raises their hand or comes to the microphone seems to be getting a shot at it too. So you're getting instantaneous responses, from an informed audience.
Oh, yes,
That's,
the audience is very informed, and we give them every chance to express that. To the chagrin of maybe some of the other council members, I try to let everybody be heard, and I try to let them get all of the time out that they need, and that has resulted in probably some of the longest meetings the council's ever had. That's a dubious distinction. I think I'm probably going to
Understood.
carry away with
Yeah.
me.
Can I ask you both of you a question about executive session? How did executive session come about, John, in the governmental process? And maybe after John responds to that, and Joe can say, well, how have you and your town council majority managed executive sessions? John?
Well, I can speak more from a multi-state perspective because there are allowances in all of the states that I'm familiar with. There was a recognition that while government should be as open and transparent as possible, that there were very specific instances where the effectiveness of government would be compromised without the ability to have confidential conversations. For example, the potential acquisition of a piece of land that you're negotiating, union negotiations and contracts, personnel matters, are all areas where there is from time to time a level of sensitivity that would require the discussions in closed-door session. Now, Rhode Island is no different than other states. You only can go into executive session under very specific purposes, and when the issue is resolved, it has to be disclosed. And so my observation, though, is that as a community, the number of times we go into executive session is relatively rare. And as I said before, for very specific purposes.
Very good. When you first came to the council, did you make a conscious decision as to how you wanted to manage the executive sessions, or?
Well, not having any prior executive experience nor management in private industry, I had to learn on the job, as I do every day. And but we had knowledgeable people. One, Judy Staben, and Jim Seveny had prior experience, and the other council members have helped considerably on guiding me and the other councilors on how to conduct ourselves in executive session, and the protocol for going in and out of executive session, when the votes can take place and when they can't, and what should be discussed in executive session, what can't be discussed in executive session. They're well-versed, this council is well-versed on what the protocols are for an executive session.
And they have the assistance of our town solicitor, who usually, almost
attendance.
always is present to make sure that the laws are being complied with and the like.
Good. Is the executive session for those of us who are mere mortals would appear to be not as transparent as we would like to have things, so you never really know what's being said. But if you have controls in place, which apparently you do, then you're not wasting your time there. You're there because you have something specific you need to do, and then you move on. And when you come out of it, you say to everybody in the audience, or are they usually gone?
They're not there.
Oh, so the executive sessions are always held after the regular scheduled meetings?
Yes. Well, they can be held before and have in the past, depending on what the issue is, or what the timing is, when the people are available that need to be there. If there's environmental attorney or something like that from Providence, it might work better to have it beforehand.
Let me shift subjects for you again on, and this time let's talk about the budgeting process a little bit. We've watched it now for several weeks. It seems to be an ongoing, really hard-working issue. We're getting to the end of that budgeting process. What did you think about this year's budgeting process as opposed to prior years, and would you change anything from this year into next?
I definitely would change things. As people have seen, when this budget came up to the last meeting, I was still looking for something lower than what had been provided by the town administrator, and I wasn't the only one, and maybe everybody thought it should be lower, because people in Portsmouth are just tired of their taxes going up every year to an extent greater than what their income can accommodate or reasonably accommodate, and it's chipping into their lifestyle and whatever. So I think we attempted this late in the game. It was Mr. Klim's idea to get together with the school committee and try to collectively determine where the tax bill should be at the end of the day. So the results are mixed so far. We are going to have a committee that's going to get together and jointly look to see where else other savings may be made, efficiencies may be achieved, and I noticed in the paper that Middletown has just done the same thing that we did here recently. We have run out of time for this segment of Portsmouth This Week. That is a great conversation to continue on at another meeting. So thank you very much for watching Portsmouth This Week.